Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritta Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirye. Nasta Prayesha Bhagavadeshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Atama Shloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna, all assembled Vaishnavas, beg your blessings so that we may have a wonderful discussion today on this most glorious Srimad Bhagavatam, the ripened fruit of all Vedic knowledge. And it's a very auspicious day, so I'd like to wish everyone a very wonderful and glorious Diwali celebration. It is a celebration in which we are welcoming into our hearts the presence of Lord Ram and the Supreme Lord. And so wish that everyone may have a very prosperous journey this year in Krishna consciousness as we try to make a very wonderful place for the Lord to reside within our hearts. So I'd like to wish everyone again a very happy Diwali. And these verses are quite nicely connected to this time of year and the celebrations that are taking place both today and tomorrow. So I've been asked to discuss from Canto 4, chapter 22, verse 7 and 8. So we'll read both verses in the purport, and then we'll, with your blessings, we'll have a nice discussion about these two verses. So the title of the chapter is Prithu Maharaj's meeting with the Kumaras. Text 7. Prithuruvacha ahomacharitam kimne mangalam mangalayanaha yasyopo darshanam hasid durdarshanam cha yogavihi. Prithuvacha, King Prithu spoke, Aho, O Lord, acharitam, practice, Kim, what? May, by me, mangalam, good fortune, mangala, ayana, O personified good fortune, yasya, by which, va, your, darshanam, audience, he, certainly, asit, become possible, durdarshanam, visible with great difficulty, cha, also, yogavi, by great mystic yogis. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. King Prithu spoke, my dear great sages, auspiciousness personified, it is very difficult even for the mystic yogis to see you. Indeed, you are very rarely seen. I do not know what kinds of pious activity I performed for you to grace me by appearing before me without difficulty. Purport. When something uncommon happens in one's progressive spiritual life, it should be understood to be incurred by agnata sukriti, or pious activities beyond one's knowledge. To see personally the Supreme Personality Godhead or a spirit devotee is not an ordinary accident. When such things happen, they should be understood to be caused by previous pious activities, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7.28. Yesham tavanta gatam papam jnananam punya karma. One who is completely freed from all resultant actions of sinful activities and who is absorbed only in pious activities can engage in devotional service. Although Maharaj Prithu's life was full of pious activities, he was wondering how his audience with the Kumaras happened. He could not imagine what kind of pious activities he had performed. This is a sign of humility on the part of King Prithu, whose life was so full of pious activities that even Lord Vishnu came to see him and predicted that the Kumaras would also come. Text 8. Kim tasya dularbataram iha loke paratracha yasya vipraha prasiddhanti shiva vishnu cha sanaga. Kim, what? Tasya, his. Durlabhataram, very rare to achieve. Iha, in this world. Loke, world. Paratra, after death. Cha, or. Yasya, one whose. Vipraha, the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Prasiddhanti, become pleased. Shiva, all auspiciousness. Vishnu, Lord Vishnu, Cha, as well as Sa Anuga, going along. Translation and purport. Any person upon whom the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are pleased can achieve anything which is very rare to obtain in this world, as well as after death. Not only that, but one who also receives the favor of the auspicious Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, who accompany the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Purport. The Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are the bearers of Lord Vishnu, all auspiciousness, as confirmed in the Brahma Samhita 538. Premanjana charuti bhakti vilochanena santa sadaiva rida eshu vilokayanti yamasham sundaram achintya swarupam govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. The devotees, out of their extreme love for Govinda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, always carry the Lord within their hearts. The Lord is already in the heart of everyone, but the Vaishnavas and the Brahmanas actually perceive and see him always in ecstasy. Therefore, Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are the carriers of Vishnu. Wherever they go, Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, or the devotees of the Lord are all carried. The four Kumaras are Brahmanas, and they visited the place of Maharaj Prithu. Naturally, Lord Vishnu and his devotees were also present. Under the circumstance, the conclusion is that when the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are pleased with a person, Lord Vishnu is also pleased. This is confirmed by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his 8 stanzas on the spiritual master, Yasya Prasadat Bhagavat Prasadam. By pleasing the spiritual master, one who is both Brahmana and Vaishnava, one pleases the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased, then one has nothing more to achieve either in this world or after death. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamstra Shri Rupam Sagratam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamshta Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandha Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyvari Paschacha Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna one. So once again, thank you for this opportunity to speak on the most glorious Srimad Bhagavatam and beg the blessings of all assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis so that we may have a nice discussion today, repeating what has been spoken by our prior acharyas on these 2 wonderful verses, verse 7 and 8 of chapter 22 of Canto 4. So I'll just read the verses again. King Prithu spoke, my dear great sages, auspiciousness personified. It is very difficult even for the mystic yogis to see you. Indeed, you are very rarely seen. I do not know what kind of pious activity I perform for you to grace me by appearing before me without difficulty. Verse 8. Any person upon whom the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are pleased can achieve anything which is very rare to obtain in this world, as well as after death. Not only that, but one also receives the favor of the auspicious Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, who accompany the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. So, we've been discussing this glorious pastimes of Prithu Maharaj And in this section, we're hearing Prithu Maharaj address the four Kumaras. So after the hearers of Prithu Maharaj's instructions in the prior chapter expressed their gratitude, glorifying Prithu Maharaj, the great sages, the four Kumaras, came into the assembly. And we see in the prior verse, in verse, sorry, I lost the, in verse 3, how eager Prithu Maharaj was to receive these four Kumaras. He was very enthusiastic, not doing it just out of etiquette or ritual, but out of his heart. And a very beautiful description of just like one has a natural inclination to satisfy one's senses, Prithu Maharaj had this natural and loving inclination to receive these wonderful devotees. And he received them very nicely. There's a very precise Vedic etiquette to receive a Vaishnava, a Brahmana. One should offer them a nice place to sit. One should wash their feet, sprinkle the water from that washing on one's head, and then offer glorification to that person, signifying the greatness of that person who has come to see them. And so here in verse 7 and in 8, Prithu Maharaj is glorifying not only his great fortune, but in glorifying his great fortune, glorifying the four Kumaras, and then describing how they bring the auspiciousness of Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu with them. So a very nice glorification. So we'll discuss a little bit from verse 7 and a little bit from verse 8 today, and then maybe have some discussion afterwards. So the first point I wanted to just touch on a little bit was this, rarity. Prithu Maharaj says it's very difficult even for the mystic yogis to see you. To come in contact with a pure devotee is extraordinarily rare. And sometimes, we are blessed with the fortune of being in the association of so many wonderful devotees, but we lose maybe the value of its rarity. And in our Shastras, it's described that the probability of a living entity coming in contact with a pure devotee is compared to the probability that when a turtle is swimming in the ocean underwater and it is swimming towards the top of the water to catch a breath of air. And as soon as that turtle breaks the plane of water in a vast ocean, in a giant ocean, there happens to be a log just crossing over that point at which the turtle is going to break the water. And not only is there a log, but at the place in which the turtle is about to hit the log, there is a hole. And not only is there a hole, but that hole is exactly the size of the head of the turtle, and the turtle gets stuck in this log. So the probability of that happening in a vast ocean, that's compared to the rare and the probability or the fortune one has of coming in contact with a pure devotee of the Lord. So, when we understand the value of something, then we can actually take advantage of it. When we appreciate the rarity, it can help us become enthusiastic in taking advantage of this opportunity to associate. We have so many wonderful traveling devotees in our movement. Are we taking advantage of that opportunity, understanding the great fortune it is? So Prithu Maharaj has clearly understood that great value. And when we appreciate value, then we can become enthusiastic. I always give this example that chanting our rounds early morning sometimes is difficult, but if we have been traveling for 3 days without sleep, without food, without water, the idea of chanting our rounds would be very difficult. But if somebody placed in front of us, a giant chest full of jewels and gold and valuable jewels, and they said, okay, now you sit and chant your rounds. And if you do, you'll receive this valuable chest of jewels? Would anybody think about their tiredness or their hunger or their thirst? No, because we have faith in the value of those jewels. But if we really understand what is our chanting doing, it is unlocking access to the spiritual world and Goloka Vrindavan. But because our appreciation of that value is still developing, our enthusiasm is not as full as it could be. So by appreciating the value of something, it fuels our enthusiasm. As we know, that is a very important ingredient in our spiritual success, is to be enthusiastic. So Prithu Maharaj here has appreciated the rarity of the great fortune that he has made. So Srila Prabhupada speaks about this fortune that we receive in the path of bhakti. It is due to this Agnata Sukriti. This Agnata Sukriti is very, very important for us. This is when we unknowingly render some service, it yields a great benefit, and it helps to initiate our process of bhakti. So this Agnata Sukriti will ultimately lead one to, by their own free will and desire, to begin to actually practice devotional service. In the Nectar of Devotion, in chapter 2, can someone go on mute? There's a lot of background noise. If someone can mute their phone, there's quite a bit of background noise coming. Thank you. So in chapter 2 of Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami speaks about the qualification for practicing pure devotional service. So in the first chapter, he describes the 6 characteristics that are awarded to the practitioner of pure bhakti. And these very amazing, kleshagni, becoming free from all the material distresses, to achieve all auspiciousness, moksha lagrutakrit, to become so happy in bhakti that even moksha seems very insignificant. And these different characteristics Rupa Goswami is explaining. And in this next chapter, he says, okay, how to start pure devotional service. And he gives the very amazing that the only qualification one needs is some attraction or some taste for bhakti. So this most powerful process of pure devotional service, it can begin by just having some attraction, some desire, some taste. No intellectual requirements, no age, no income, not even a level of purification. One might think, I must purify to a certain point before I can start the process. But he says, no, it's only an attraction. And so where does this attraction come from? Well, this attraction for bhakti comes from bhakti, from the rendering of devotional service. Remember, we see that bhakti can only come from bhakti. So the execution of devotional service, the result of that is an attraction, a taste for bhakti. And that taste leads to devotional service. And as one performs devotional service, it increases the attraction. And as one's attraction increases, it fuels more devotional service. And like that, that cycle continues. And that cycle ends in perfection of devotional service, Krishna Prema. And that's why Srila Prabhupada says, once you start this process, you'll be dragged to success. Because this attraction that comes from bhakti leads to doing more bhakti. So this is a self-perpetuating cycle. But how to get into the cycle? If the attraction comes from devotional service, and devotional service comes from having some attraction, that seems like a catch-22. How to start that? How does one enter into this cycle? If I need some attraction to render devotional service, but that attraction comes from devotional service, it seems like I am stuck. So this is where Agnata Sukriti comes into play. That we do require some attraction to do devotional service, but that the initial impetus comes from the causeless mercy of some devotee, or from Krishna directly, who engages us in the performance of devotional service. Now, Agnata Sukriti, we can do so unknowingly. And from that, the taste of bhakti begins. And so it doesn't require any, intent or even faith. It happens unknowingly. Someone engages us in devotional service and some attraction is developed. And ultimately that attraction will mature into knowingly rendering devotional service. And this is the great fortune that all of us have had some point in our process. Someone, even unknowingly, some examples of this, just to explain or help to make this vivid in our understanding. You can imagine, the pilot flying Srila Prabhupada from New York to San Francisco to start the movement in San Francisco, where it really began to explode after some success in New York. That pilot is performing a great service to Srila Prabhupada, moving a pure devotee on his movement, on his mission to fulfill the desire of his spiritual master. But that pilot had no idea of his devotional service. On that same plane, certainly, a flight attendant would have offered Srila Prabhupada a glass of water or something for his comfort during his journey. That flight attendant is performing Agnata Sukriti, is getting Agnata Sukriti, performing devotional service unknowingly, yet the benefit is great. So, there's so many instances. You buy an orange from the store and you offer to the Lord. Well, the farmer who grew that orange is getting some benefit from that offering you made of that orange. They had no idea that would be the ultimate result of them planting that orange tree and harvesting that orange and selling it to some wholesaler who sold it to a market. And all the people, the person who drove that orange to the market, gets some benefit. So this unknowing service leads to more service, and slowly and ultimately one can then enter into the realm of sadhana bhakti. Some faith will develop, and with that association with devotees, the practice of devotional service can unfold. So this Agnata Sukriti is very powerful, and it's also inspiring for us that we can work to how we can distribute this. The public Harinam, going out in the streets and chanting the holy names. So much Agnata Sukriti is being distributed. Even if people are not actively participating or coming and immediately dumping and dancing, and we see them at the temple the next week, we wonder, wow, is there any value in our Harinam? There's huge value, because this Agnata Sukriti is being placed into the hearts of so many living entities. And ultimately, eventually, it will fructify into the performance of sadhana bhakti. That is guaranteed. It may take many lifetimes. So knowing about this Agnata Sukriti can inspire us to go out and distribute it. Sometimes we cannot go out and engage people in devotional service outright. Come and sit and chant with us or read Bhagavad Gita. They may not be ready yet for such activities, so we can find indirect means to engage them in devotional service. In this month of Kartik, we can try to invite non-devotees to our home or to somewhere and say, oh, light a lamp for some blessings. We don't have to explain all the inner details of such, or just feed them some prasad, distribute Govardhan Puja prasad that is coming tomorrow, and distribute them in your office and to your family who may not be taking to the process. By doing so, we are giving them the blessings of this Agnata Sukriti. So many different ways that we can perform this. And Srila Prabhupada is commenting that this is very critical in one's path of devotional service. And we should be thankful that somehow we have received this from someone, somehow, because this is the means by which we can enter into the realm of devotional service. Without it, it cannot happen, because this attraction cannot come from any other means. So The second comment I wanted to make on, or the third comment on this verse, is Srila Prabhupada speaks at the end of this purport about the great humility of Prithu Maharaj. Prithu Maharaj is expressing, wow, what fortune I would have had to see you. Now, we can understand that, Prithu Maharaj is a pure devotee of the Lord. He's a Shaktavesha avatar. Right? He's an empowered incarnation. He has already had the personal darshan of Lord Vishnu. Right? And yet he is expressing, what great fortune I have had. This is a great symbol of his humility. And Prithu Maharaj was the ruler of the world. He was so powerful and so much opulence, yet he maintained humility. This is sometimes very difficult to do in the midst of opulence and power. We see politicians and how difficult it is for them to be humble. Great athletes who become very, very wealthy. They're very skilled and worshipped, by their fans. It's very difficult to be humble. Or movie stars. Prithu Maharaj was at the topmost position, and yet he's expressing extraordinary humility in this statement. So it's very, very inspiring for us. And I thought we could spend a few minutes just speaking about humility. As we know, it's such an important part of our devotional process, and it's quite tied to the pastime of Govardhan Puja, which maybe we'll just touch on at the very, very end. But how to know if we are humble? What is humility? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives us the very clear formula: Tunadapi sunichena tarodapi shahishna mani namanadena kirtaniya sadahari. So, in one measure, have I achieved humility? Well, kirtaniya sadahari, to chant the holy names of the Lord constantly, it requires one to be humble. So am I chanting the holy names of the Lord constantly? If I am, then I may understand that, yes, some progress has been made towards humility. So it is a nice metric, measure. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives, very important and very tangible and relatable examples, that one should be more humble than a blade of grass. How humble is a blade of grass? A blade of grass is standing very softly, ready to accept the footsteps of anyone who walks by. And as soon as it receives the foot of someone and it is left, it stands back up again, waiting for the next person to come and step. This is the type of humility that the Vaishnava is trying to cultivate in the heart. Willing to accept anything, accept the steps being used in the service of Krishna and his devotees. Tolerant like a tree. A tree is undisturbed. It's very rainy and stormy here where we are, and a tree is not complaining. It is being swayed in the wind left and right. The tree does not complain. It is undisturbed. So the devotee is encouraged. The humble devotee is very tolerant, unmoved by different disturbances. And then amani namanadena. What is our emotional state when someone criticizes us? We are expecting someone to glorify our great service, and then they say, "Oh, Prabhu, in this service that you did, it could have been done this way," and we become very frustrated and angry. We're expecting someone to glorify and to respect our contribution, but instead we become disheveled by that experience. So it's a sign of our lack of humility. And are we giving respects? We judge, oh, this person isn't worthy of my respects. Oh, this person they're only a beginner. We start to qualify who is worthy of our respect. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, expecting no respect from anybody, but giving respect to all. So to what degree are we giving respect to all and expecting none that is a good measure of our progress in humility. And we see that this anger, when anger manifests in our heart, it is a sign of potential, of some pride. And when that pride goes unsatisfied, we become angry. And we certainly see that in the pastime of Lord Indra, devastating rainfalls upon Vrindavan. When his pride was broken, there was a mood of anger. So Prithu Maharaj is showing us again this very important sign of humility. And Srila Prabhupada comments that his humility was so staggering that despite having seen Lord Vishnu himself in this great position, he remained humble. It is a sign of great character. When we have nothing, it is easier to be humble. In devotional service, sometimes it's easier to be humble in the early days, of devotional service. But as we progress, this humility, it should actually increase by the practice of devotional service, by the purification of the heart. One should become more humble. But sometimes in circumstances, one achieves position and status and tenure. This mood of humility does not cultivate. So we can try to actively cultivate it, as we see it as a very important characteristic, as explained here. So now I'll discuss a little bit from verse 8. I'll just read the text again for refreshing everyone's memory. Any person upon whom the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are pleased can achieve anything which is very rare to obtain in this world, as well as after death. Not only that, but one also receives the favor of the auspicious Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, who accompany the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. So we can see Prithu Maharaj is glorifying the pure devotees, the Vaishnavas and Brahmanas, and how important it is to please them. We can obtain anything that is extraordinarily rare in this world, even after death. And Srila Prabhupada dedicates, the significant portion of the purport to this topic of pleasing the devotees. In the beginning, he references this verse from Brahma Samhita. It's a very beautiful verse that speaks about the extreme love for Govinda of their pure devotees. And so the pure devotees, they carry with them Krishna, and they're able to perceive Krishna. So I wanted to talk about both of these points. So first, we'll talk about how the devotees, they are able to manifest Vrindavan wherever they go. They're able to bring Krishna wherever they go. A Vaishnava, one of the definitions of a Vaishnava is one who inspires others to remember Krishna when they are seen. So by their presence, one is inspired to remember Krishna. That is one of the definitions or signs of a Vaishnava. And Srila Prabhupada traveled throughout the world, and he brought Krishna everywhere. He manifested Vrindavan wherever it may be. And he spoke, in his purports about this. I wanted to read a couple of purports just to discuss. So in Madhya Lila, Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 7, verse 29, this is when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is meeting Kurma Brahman. And he is leaving, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is bestowing his blessings to Brahmana Kurma. So just read the verse in the purport. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu further advised that Brahmana Kurma, if you follow this instruction, your material life at home will not obstruct your spiritual advancement. Indeed, if you follow these regular principles, we will meet again here, or rather, you will never lose my company. Brahmana Kurma wanted to leave to join Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he spoke as such. And Srila Prabhupada's purport is very, very nice and inspiring. The purport is, there is an opportunity for everyone. If one simply follows the instruction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu under the guidance of his representative and chants the Hare Krishna mantra, teaching everyone as far as possible the same principle. The contamination of the material way of life will not even touch him. It does not matter whether one lives in a holy place like Vrindavan, Navadvip, or Jagannath Puri, or in the midst of European cities, where the materialistic way of life is very prominent. If a devotee follows the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Prabhu, he lives in the company of the Lord. Wherever he lives, he converts that place into Vrindavan and Navadvip. This means that materialism cannot touch him. This is the secret of success for one advancing in Krishna consciousness. So we see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was bringing Vrindavan wherever he went, wherever he wanted to go. There's another nice in Bhagavad Gita in chapter 8 in the purport, Prabhupada says that the special qualification of the pure devotee is that he is always thinking of Krishna without deviation and without considering the time or place. There should be no impediments. He should not be able to he should be able to carry out his service anywhere and at any time. Some say that the devotee should remain in holy places like Vrindavan or some holy town where the Lord lived. But a pure devotee can live anywhere and create the atmosphere of Vrindavan by his devotional service. It was Sri Advaita who told Lord Chaitanya, wherever you go, O Lord, there is Vrindavan. So we can see the great potency of the pure devotee. Srila Prabhupada in the purport to the Chaitanya Charitamrita verse we wrote, very importantly says, one who follows the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu under guidance, who spreads this message, has this qualification. So the great devotees, the benefit we have is that they're bringing Krishna with them. They're bringing the holy lands of Vrindavan with them. And so how eager we should be, like Bhakti Maharaj, to be in their association, to render service to them. And that's very important. So we'll talk about that service in a moment. But in the purport to this verse in Brahma Samhita, this verse, what is the difference between us and a pure devotee? Or at least between myself and a pure devotee, I should say. I'm in the midst of many pure devotees now. Devotees, they perceive Krishna everywhere. Krishna is present everywhere, but he is not always perceived. And very instructive and very appropriate. Krishna was in Vrindavan, but Lord Indra did not see Krishna. His vision became lost due to pride. So in the purport to this verse from Brahma Samhita, I just wanted to read a little bit from it because it's very, very nice in describing this verse. It says, when Krishna manifested himself in Vraja, both the devotees and non-devotees saw him with the very eye. But only the devotees cherished him, eternally present in Vraja, as the priceless jewel of their heart. Nowadays, also the devotees see him in Vraja in their hearts, saturated with devotion, although they do not see them with their eyes. The eye of devotion is nothing but the eye of the pure, unalloyed spiritual self of the jiva. The form of Krishna is visible to the eye in proportion to the purification by the practice of devotion. When the devotion of the neophyte reaches the stage of bhava bhakti, the pure eye of that devotee is tinged with the salve of love by the grace of Krishna, which enables him to see Krishna face to face. The phrase "in their hearts" means Krishna is visible in proportion as their hearts are purified by the practice of devotion. Very beautiful. I just want to read again that one sentence. The form of Krishna is visible to the eye in proportion to its purification by the practice of bhakti, by the practice of devotion. So, the pure devotee is able to see Krishna. Remember the one comment, Srila Prabhupada was asked, Prabhupada, does Krishna eat the offerings we are making? We're putting a plate in front of the deity, but is he actually eating them? And Prabhupada said, yes. He said, I can see them eating, but you cannot. So Prabhupada was a pure devotee. So based on the proportion of the purification, one is actually able to see Krishna. When we see the Murti form, are we seeing marble or are we seeing Krishna? Right? And the more we purify, the more we'll be able to actually see the Supreme Lord present. He is present everywhere. And so in this verse, we see the importance of that presence there. So the opportunity to purify, where does that come from? Well, we must please the Lord. And how to please the Lord? It is through the service of his devotees. And Prabhupada quotes this section from our Guru Vastaka prayers, Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado. By pleasing the spiritual master, who is both Brahmana and Vaishnava, one pleases the Supreme Personality of God. So we know Krishna says that whoever thinks that they are my devotee, they are not. But the devotee who is the devotee of my devotee, he is actually my devotee. Not exactly a quote, but one who thinks themselves to be a devotee of Krishna is not, but one who is a servant of his devotee actually is a devotee in the eyes of Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu desired this position of dasan and dasan and dasan. We see Pritha Maharaj is speaking about this service to devotees repeatedly, because it's a very important process. Pleasing Krishna directly is very difficult. Srila Prabhupada used to give the example that to please a rich man is not so easy. What do we have that we can give that person? They have everything. So how we can please a rich man is very, very difficult. We don't have much that we can give. But to please a rich man's son, it's easy. Just give them one sweet and they'll be very happy. A young child, very happy. So like that, it's very difficult for us to please Krishna. But to please his devotee, it's not so difficult. The devotee is so kind and so pleasing and so merciful that whatever service we render to him or her, whatever impurities it may contain, they're tolerant and forgiving and grateful because of their devotion, and they accept it. So, and when Krishna sees that his devotee is pleased by some activity we have performed, then he'll actually become pleased with us. So this makes Krishna consciousness actually very easy for us. Just serve his devotees. But this service to his devotees requires a very humble mood and a very humble mindset. Srila Prabhupada established this ISKCON, he says repeatedly, as an opportunity for association, to give the opportunity to associate with like-minded so that one can advance in spiritual life. Well, association with devotees gives us the opportunity to serve. We can determine, we choose how to be in association. We can be in association casually or in conversation or whatnot, or we can choose to take advantage of that association and render service. And this is what Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur is saying, that by pleasing the devotee, by pleasing the guru, one can actually please Krishna. So in a practical way, in different times we go to the temple, we sometimes may be very eager to do service to the deities, to cook for them or to dress for them. But we can find how I can actually assist someone else, render service to some devotee, how we should be as eager to dress the deity or to perform arti as it is to clean up after the Sunday feast. It is a great service to devotees. They have taken and honored the Lord's direct mercy of prasadam. We cannot state the glories of honoring prasadam. And now I can render the service to clean up after. What potent means. So, we can evaluate our own condition by how eager am I to perform that service compared to maybe some other service which we think to be direct service. But it's very clear by Shastra which is actually more pleasing to the Lord. So we can try to become inspired to render service to the devotee. And Srila Prabhupada, with the presence of ISKCON, has given us so many facilities, so many opportunities to very practically render this service to the devotees. And so I wanted to just make one more comment, kind of on a tangent, but I was asked this question yesterday. I could not fully answer the question based on the audience that was present, but it was a very nice question, so I thought I could address it here, and it sort of, relates to this topic, which is, the question was how to render service selflessly, how to become inspired to render selfless service, and how to cultivate this mood. Well, this rendering a selfless service, it requires great humility, because one has to surrender their own desires. By definition, selfless means I don't put forth any of my own desires of service. And last week when I had the opportunity to speak, we spoke about this human form of life being a boat. And the boat in the hands of a captain, a good captain can cross the ocean. But the boat is very helpless in the hands of the captain. It goes any direction. It has no independent desire. So like that, we can try to cultivate that mood of full surrender. I give up all my desires. And the Bhagavad Gita is a series of instructions to bring us to that point. Arjuna, in the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, had so many desires. He did not want to fight. He thought it would be better that to be forgiving, and all these reasons. He was determined not to fight. That was his desire. But ultimately, after hearing the Bhagavad Gita, what was his position? Krishe vachanam tava. He was prepared to follow the instructions. Right? He had surrendered all of his ideas. And so, how to serve Krishna's desires, that then becomes the question. Arjuna was serving Krishna's desire by engaging in battle. Well, what about us? Well, Krishna's desire is for us to serve his devotees. He has given us that very clear instruction. And we see here, yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado. So in the spiritual world, we're going to do the same. In the spiritual world, all the direct positions of service to Krishna are already taken. Our position is going to be the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. So someone will ask us to make a garland. But if my desire is I'd rather, sing a song, well, then we'll be in a very difficult position. So we can practice today for what life will be like in the spiritual world by rendering this selfless service. And so how to do it, we can put ourselves in a position to be always working under the guidance, seeking out, someone who can inspire us in the practice of bhakti, and willing to forego, I want to do this, but I'm being asked to do that, and enthusiastically do that and not what it is that I desire. This is how we have to cultivate this mood of selfless service, by surrendering, our own desires of what I want to do, and putting our boat, our journey in the hands of someone who can guide us very safely across this ocean of material existence. So it's a very humbling experience, because one has to give up all their own desires. It's a very difficult process, but it is extraordinarily powerful. It is so powerful and uplifting, and it's actually very, very blissful if one can do it. I'm hoping someday I can do it. But that is the goal that we can shoot for, is to be able to render this selfless service, because ultimately that is the position in the spiritual world. Assisting the assistant of the assistant, doing what is asked of us. So Srila Prabhupada again has given us this movement as an opportunity to do that. And we see this with the great, devotees and acharyas. Raghunath Das Goswami had spent so much time and energy, seeking out the association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, always thinking how he could run away from his very opulent home life, and break free to join Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. And when he reached Lord Nityananda, he engaged him in what? Vaishnava Seva. He said, you serve all the devotees. and celebrated the great Panihati festival. And by the service of the devotees, he then obtained the mercy of Lord Nityananda. And by the mercy of Lord Nityananda, he then obtained Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he reached Jagannath Puri after so much endeavor and so much effort, so many blessings. His lifelong dream was to serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to be in his company. And immediately when he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him? You now go serve Swarup Damodar. With an impurified heart, one would be disappointed. What? I came to serve you. I came to be with you. But Raghunath Das Goswami had the purified heart, and he became enthusiastic in rendering service to Swarup Damodar, which was serving the devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we see this mood in the highest of highest, purest of purest devotees. And we can try to cultivate that same consciousness. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, himself was rendering so much service to the devotees. After the cleansing of the Gundicha temple, how he personally distributed prasad with his own hands to all the devotees who had rendered service. So like this, we see this over and over. So I wanted to just conclude with one point and comment, and it sort of ties into this time of year we're celebrating this Diwali day today, which we know is the day in which this most beautiful Damodar Lila took place. And tomorrow we'll be celebrating Govardhan Puja. And this is a very important festival in which we can celebrate and pray for the destruction of the pride in our heart. Lord Indra's pride led him to not be able to see Krishna. As we see in verse 8, one can perceive Krishna. The great devotee sees Krishna. Even though he is present everywhere, not everybody can see him. And by the purification of the heart, purification of what? One of the impurities is our pride, that we can then see Krishna. And Krishna was there performing his pastimes, yet could not be seen. So I was reading from Canto 10 in these chapters earlier this week, and I was struck by one verse, and I just wanted to share with everyone. It was just, I read this verse many times before, but this verse this time somehow struck me very strongly. This is from Canto 10, chapter 27, and it is verse 16. And this is after the pastime of lifting the hill. Lord Indra is now offering his prayers, realizing the great mistake he made due to pride. And Krishna says, in response to Lord Indra's prayers, this verse, a man blinded by intoxication with his power and opulence cannot see me nearby with the rod of punishment in my hand. If I desire his real welfare, I drag him down from his materially fortunate position. I was just stunned by this, with the rod of punishment. So we can pray to Krishna to beat us with his rod of punishment, because he says, if I desire his real welfare, then I drag him down from his materially fortunate position. It was Krishna's greatest mercy to break the pride of Lord Indra. And we can pray to Krishna on this day tomorrow that he, with his rod of punishment, can break our own pride so that we can purify and come to the point of being able to see Krishna as he is, this supreme loving personality of Godhead, and have the humility to be able to render service to his devotees, which is what pleases him himself. This is, we can pray tomorrow and every day for this rod of punishment. I was struck by this verse and just wanted to share with everyone in light of this. And then my final comment, I couldn't help but I read ahead to verse 9. It's very sweet that verse 9 speaks about this topic of not being able to see Krishna when he was present. And of course, that is what happened on the day of Govardhan Puja very nicely. So it's quite appropriate that maybe the verse discussed tomorrow. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda. Any comments or questions, discussion, corrections?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, very nice class, very nice instructions also to learn more. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much for such a beautiful class, and it's very nice, Prabhu. And one point I really like that we should not take any association of devotee or anything that lightly, and we have to try to utilize it very nicely. When we miss only, we will understand that what we have actually, took light. Any association of devotee or anything really that you are telling in the class, like we should always take advantages of brahmanas and pure devotee association. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, what was that verse you told about Chaitanya Charitamrita, that Madhya Leela, about the Kurma Brahman?
Yeah, that was chapter Madhya Leela, chapter 7, and it was verse 129.
Oh,
129.
thank you.
Thank you, Lord.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, very, very beautiful class, Prabhuji. The way the instructions that you have put across, counting value association so much, which we kind of sometimes take it for granted in our spiritual life. We need to be very more grateful because of that, whatever we are doing. And also, as you mentioned, to get that mood of selfless service, probably how sincere we need to be and how humble heights of humility that we need to have, surrendering all our desires to come to that. So I understood the fact that we need to have humility for that, but again, that will all depend upon sadhana, is it? Like how, again, the question is like, how do you get that kind of humility? How do you inculcate that humility?
Well, we have to understand what the result of that humility is. Right? So, what is the result of that mood? Is awakening this most beautiful, most potent Krishna prema. Right? Selfless service. That is the definition of pure devotional service. Niyabhilashita shunyam. All desires are gone. So to inculcate that mood, we have to understand what the value of what we are trying to achieve is. If I know the value of a college degree, then I'll work very, very hard for it because I understand that that college degree will give me a lifetime of money, which I likely will ascribe to opportunity for happiness, for sense enjoyment. So because of that understanding of that value, I'm willing to work so hard, study day in, day out, nights, weekends, even if I'm sick, doesn't matter. Because I'm inspired, because I understand the value of that college degree. So to inculcate this mood of selfless service, we have to understand and appreciate the value of what it brings. And that is pure devotional service, pure love, which, as Prithu Maharaj said in this verse, one gets the rarest of rarest things. So the fortune of it is extraordinary. So if I understand that, then I can have some inspiration to cultivate this mood of selfless service. Otherwise, I'll become kind of, yeah, I should be selfless, but if I don't know the why and what it can achieve, then it's very difficult to be enthusiastic to cultivate. And what's the means to do it? It is, as you said, good chanting. It's sadhana, inspired sadhana, not mechanical sadhana. But inspired sadhana comes when there's something that I value that I'm trying to reach from. Right? So the process is we become aware how we even knew about Krishna Prema. Right? Now, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, he's made us aware of this opportunity by presenting these wonderful scriptures like Nectar of Devotion. So we can study and understand, and by that, it'll inspire us to understand the value of selfless service. And then our sadhana can dovetail with this desire. And we put ourselves in positions to do that, to come under guidance, to work under authority. In the verse I quoted, Prabhupada very importantly in this Chaitanya Charitamrita, this 7th chapter, verse 129 in the purport, he says that if one simply follows the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu under the guidance of his representative, he didn't say follow the instructions. He said follow the instructions under the guidance. Right? So under the guidance means we ultimately are surrendering our self-desires, our own ideas. Now we must be, in practical terms, we must be very careful who we surrender to and who we take our guidance from, because, practically speaking, we cannot, do that very broadly, and we may be tossed into so many different directions. So we must choose and do it and try it, and you'll see the fruit of that. I want to do this service, but someone's asking me to do something else. Let me try it and see how Krishna reciprocates. That will inspire us to do more. But we should understand it's critical, because in the spiritual world, there's only selfless service. So if we don't learn it now, what is the point of going to the spiritual world? Because nobody is worried about what we want. So we can try to practice it now for preparation of life in the spiritual world. Otherwise, we'll be unhappy there. Sorry, Mataji, long answer to your question. Hopefully that was okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandot Pranam, August Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very, very beautiful class and very nice answer, Prabhuji. It's always like that we need to remember these things all the time, because many times we forget and we think about ourselves. So selfless is the word very important here, because we are always centered around ourselves, and we easily say that this devotee hurt me, that devotee hurt me, and we forget about the devotional service, and we lose all our association and everything, and it's very bad for our devotional service. And also I like the point when you said wherever the pure devotees are, they create Vrindavan there. So it's very important about like thinking about Vrindavan, because it's the Kartik month is going on, and all the devotees, senior devotees, they give classes in the conference. They are all gone to Vrindavan, and they are in complete bliss, taking Yamuna Snan and going around the Vrajamandal. So it's very nice. So I have one announcement from tomorrow. We will start our Vrajamandal Parikrama on the conference. We will be doing Manas Parikrama, and we will be reading all the pastimes where they go from day 1 and day 2. So it's already half of the month is gone. So we will do 2 days in one day we try to cover, and we will finish our Rajamandal Parikrama at the end of this Kartik month. So all the devotees they are welcome to you know have a discussion about that, and we will have half an hour Bhagavatam class, and after that we will do our Vrajamandal Parikrama. So thank you so much. We'll try to create Vrindavan in the conference call, because recently we visited in summer, we visited Vrindavan, and I was missing so much. So please bless us that we will try to do our best. So thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Wonderful, wonderful announcement.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, thank you for such a wonderful class. You set us in the right mood for tomorrow and for today also. Thank you so much. Very, very inspiring lessons. And the way you explained it was very beautiful. Especially what touched me very much was that Srila Prabhupada said that now I can actually see him eating the offering, but you cannot, because so we need to develop that. We need to make sure that we get to that stage where we can actually see and see the Lord with our eyes. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for a very enlightening class. Does anyone have any more questions? Okay. Well, if no one has any more questions, I will thank Prabhuji. Do you have any questions?
Oh, hi, Krishna. No, I think it's okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for the very enlightening class today. We are very, very grateful to you for your association. And we look forward to it in the future too. Let's end the call by offering prayers to Prabhuji and all the Vaishnavas on the call. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripasinubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. That's Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Anand Chakravarti Vaishnav Srila Prabhupada ki jai. HG Nitya Krishna Prabhuji ki jai. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
No, I pronounce. Thank you so much. All happy Diwali.
This session is no longer being.
What?